Hello and welcome. Using 2 of the 3 cars in front, I aim to make this video as informative as I possibly can regarding the most underrated overtaking methods in sim racing. Wisely picking and choosing where we overtake, why sometimes we might choose to not overtake, when we choose to overtake, why it works, and an explanation to why it worked. So if you're wanting to improve this part of your racecraft, I suggest you stick around, because I'm going to try and make this video as valuable and as informative as possible. Starting at turn 1, and why I choose not to overtake here. Even though I get a better exit than the McLaren, he still has a slipstream of the Ferrari in front. And I'm not here to overtake one car, I'm here to overtake at least 2. And 2 wide through to Rouge would kill our exit speed, maybe losing out on a valuable slipstream of the Ferrari in front. On a track like Spa, getting all the slipstream on the straights is really important. People much slower than the leaders can gap much faster cars that are behind them just because of the slipstream that they're gaining on the straights. Now that the slipstream isn't as important here, this is where I go on the offence. Going too wide through the next couple of corners can be really time diminishing. So this is where I need to hatch a plan of which corner I'm going to execute it on. Now you'll notice that I slow off here, and not by accident, it's a part of my little switcheroo plan. Now you'll notice that I'm almost perfectly positioned to take the corner. My opponent, however, in the McLaren is looking pretty uncomfortable. Realistically, unless he decides to just block the whole corner, which in turn would just slow us down more than what it's worth, the orange line is realistically the line he's going to take. Taking a tighter entry means he's going to take a wider exit. That's if he wants to maintain as much speed as possible, keeping up the Ferrari in front. Me being on the normal racing line almost, I can go for a wider entry and a tighter exit. The guy in the McLaren on the orange line, being as though he's taken a tighter entry, means that he's going to be able to get on the gas a lot later. Getting on the gas earlier, as if though he was on the normal racing line, would put him in an understeer into the gravel, potentially into the wall. So the orange circle roughly represents where he's going to be able to get on the gas. Me on the other hand, on the green line, the green circle represents where I'll be able to get back on the gas. And you'll notice that it's much before the orange circle, which in turn means that I should get a much faster exit. Now that I have the inside line controlling the middle of the track, it means that I'm going to have a lot more say in how we enter and exit the next left turn. Now that Operation Switchback is complete, it's time to close the gap between us and the Ferrari. There will, along the way, however, be a little bit of defending to do. I happily give him the inside line here because I know that if he commits, I've already got the inside of the next corner. Seeing in my mirror that doesn't have the speed to commit, I cut back in, preparing for the next left turn. I switched the camera angle here to a rear facing one. This is because the guy in the McLaren goes for a daring overtake at bus stop. It doesn't help that I catch some of the gravel. This is severely reducing my exit speed, giving the McLaren chance to catch back up. Regardless of whether I'm attacking or defending at bus stop, I always choose the left line, and I'm going to explain why. I think it's a really important tip for folk to learn. Here's a still shot of bus stop. You'll see me in the Corvette on the left, the McLaren on the right. Again, we're going to put the McLaren on the orange line, and obviously we're going to put me on the green line, because I'm a goody two-shoes. Stick with me on this one, it's going to take some explaining. The McLaren on the orange line has a shorter braking distance between the 2 corners, a shorter acceleration point, and a much wider exit. Me, on the other hand, on the green line, on the entry to bus stop I can brake later. This is because my turning point is further away. Sure, it's a tiny bit wider on the entry, but I have quite a significant longer acceleration point and a much tighter exit, where to some degree I do have some control of my opponent's exit also. In turn, the green line's entry is actually much tighter than the orange line's exit, meaning that it's actually a shorter distance to travel. And this is why on both attack and defence, I'll choose the left line. So a quick recap, bus stop, attack and defence will enter on the left line, or I will at least. On the left line, both attack and defence, we can brake a little bit later on entry, maintaining as much overlap as possible on our opponent. It doesn't work on all chicanes, but you should definitely try it. The chicanes that I recommend that you really do try it on are the ones where your entry is tighter than the opponent's exit. As you can see, the McLaren's exit was much tougher than mine, meaning it's a lot easier for me to stabilise my car and get back on the gas. Jumping exactly one lap later to catch up with the Ferrari. Knowing the bus stop well really does help me close some of the gap. The overtake that we get on the Ferrari later on sure isn't as exhilarating as the one that we got earlier, but trust me, it's just as important, if not more so. My main goal here on turn 1 isn't to overtake the Ferrari. Battling with the Ferrari at this point will cost me a lot of time, making the McLaren's job of keeping up with me much easier. The job is instead get the best slipstream that we could possibly get on the entry to Eau Rouge and the straight afterwards. Every failed overtake attempt that you make will cost you precious time, and each millisecond of time lost unnecessarily is a millisecond that the guy behind is not losing, meaning that driving too aggressive is potentially going to give slower drivers a shot at overtaking you. Being the second to last lap, I need to lose as little time as possible. That means not getting petty with the Ferrari. However, I do want the Ferrari's position. I've got an iRacing to build back up, I'll have you know. So rather than trying to make silly overtaking attempts, over the course of the lap, I decide to play little mind games with the Ferrari. Mind games that are going to increase his chances of making a mistake. Now for perspective, the Ferrari is rated around, or just over 2,500. So he's not exactly a rookie, meaning that anyone rated lower can definitely fall for this trap. And I've seen much higher rated drivers also fall for this trap. It's not exactly a trap, it's more of a distraction. And this is where I pick up my only instant point of the race. Damn it. Think of the safety rating, you peasant! All in all, what I'm trying to do is get in the Ferrari's mirrors. While ever he's looking in his mirrors, he's not looking where he's going, or at least he's not fully paying attention to where he's going. And we're already seeing signs of this working. I'm still using all the track, making it really easy to keep up with the Ferrari. The Ferrari is tightening his line, leaving as little space as possible for me to overtake. And at this point of the track, I'm not even trying to overtake. If I must overtake, I'll wait for bus stop. Anyway, the guy in the Ferrari's nerves finally strike. He makes a fatal error running off onto the gravel, causing him a lot of unnecessary slowdown. And by the way, the guy in the McLaren never thanked me for this. Ungrateful dick. As we approach bus stop, the McLaren makes another move. I actually fumble up my left line, but it doesn't matter because we still manage to take advantage anyway. This is the last lap, so there's no room for error. However, as you'll know at the beginning of the video, this part of the race is already scripted. Maintain a close distance through Rouge, take advantage of the slipstream on the exit. And this is one of those chicanes where the bus stop tactic doesn't usually work, so this time I'm happy to choose the right hand line. This is because the entry and exits are pretty similar, and there's no mid-chicane acceleration point, meaning that usually the first around the corner is usually first to the exit. Approaching bus stop, we have a new contender, but unfortunately he's not even in with a chance. Realistically, he's too far behind to make an attempt. And that'll be it. End of the race. All in all, if you've watched this far into the video, I really appreciate you. And I really hope that it's been very informative and it helps you out in your future races. I also hope that you'll stick around, as later on in the channel's life, I hope to be getting some real life track action. And if you subscribe, you'll also be notified when I go live. Thanks for watching again. Catch you in the next one.